Hello everyone, happy Thursday. Welcome to our art history class. I wanted to start out by saying that I will continue to offer distance learning to our friends that are going to stay at home once we come back to school. So anyone who stays at home decides that keeping their children at home is safer and better for them, that's perfect, and we want to support you in that. So you'll still be getting art history lessons during the week. So let's go ahead and jump into our featured artist of the week, who is Georgia O'Keeffe. So someone new to talk about. Let's go ahead and go through the artists we've talked about previously. So let's try to remember some names. So we had our first artist who painted outside, and he painted water lilies, and his paintings were kind of real fast and maybe like rain or playing the piano. And his name was Claude Monet. Good, perfect. And then after that, we talked about someone who used scissors for his artwork, and he cut everything out. And I'm at school, so there are examples of that artwork right behind me in our art studio. And his name was Henri Matisse. And then after that, we did talk about one artist with crazy hair, and he was very popular in the 1980s, and he did a lot of artwork of famous people or maybe popular items that you would find in your home, like a Campbell's soup can. His name was Andy Warhol. And then after that, we talked about someone who did comic book art, and he did a lot of onomatopoeia in his work. So pow, or bang, or splash, or pop. And so that was Roy Lichtenstein. Super long name, Lichtenstein. And then we just got finished up talking about Jean-Michel Basquiat. Do you remember Basquiat when we talked about him? And so we did study him briefly and talked about spray painting and graffiti style work and working on different mediums. So painting on sidewalks or on brick walls or on cardboard, different textures will show paint in different ways. And now we are moving on to Georgia O'Keeffe. We've talked about her previously in one of our books, and so she has become very famous for her paintings of flowers. And I think a fun fact that you would find memorable from the book that we read is that she painted in her car. That's kind of weird, right? So she would paint scenes out in deserts, and it would get too hot in her car, or too hot outside, and so she would paint in her car to make sure that she was keeping out of the sun. This is kind of a goofy place to paint, and your parents probably do not want you painting in the car. So bad idea now. But fun to think of painting outside and painting in a place that normally we maybe don't do art. So that's kind of an interesting concept. And painting outside, I think, would be a good option. Today is beautiful. Tomorrow is going to be a little bit rainy, but maybe this weekend. That's something you could do. We are not going to go through all of our flashcards. We're only going to go through the last couple new ones. And that's just because once we all are back together and we start to get back into the swing of things, then I want to start going through all of the words. But as of right now, we're just going to try to catch up and learn these couple little words here, okay? So, what do you think? We use these to make necklaces. Beads, good, very colorful beads. And then these are things that your parents have around the house most likely, with pictures of celebrities and maybe perfume. These are magazines, and they're really good things that we can use to cut up and use the pictures that are there. This is, it's fabric, but it's got a really specific name when we talk about fabric in art. It's textiles. Can you say that? Textiles? And then we learned about this one a lot because this was Jean-Michel Basquiat when we talked about him. he used spray paint. Remember we talked about you would push down on that and paint would spray out of the can. All right, so I have a book about Georgia O'Keeffe that we'll read together today. And then I'll give you a small project to work on either today, tomorrow, or this weekend. And then before you know it, we'll all be back together. So this is called Through Georgia's Eyes. Sun Prairie, Wisconsin, 1887. And even though Miss Bridget grew up here, she lived in Wisconsin for a number of years. So kind of a cool connection. I've seen Georgia O'Keeffe's work in person. Georgia's first memory. She will always remember these colors and the brightness of light. Light all around. Doesn't she kind of look like a little baby angel there? She's surrounded by light. Soon, Georgia runs and plays games with her brothers and sisters. Her father gives her sweets and plays Irish tunes. Her mother reads stories and cares for the younger children. Everyone works hard on the farm. They're all playing together. Georgia roams the prairie. The trees and land keep her company. Pencil and sketch pad comfort her. She discovers she likes to be alone. Seasons melt into seasons on her family's farm. Georgia struggles to show on paper what she sees. That's why we have to practice our art, right? Sometimes it's hard to show what we're thinking in our heads on paper. At 12, she takes painting lessons. She tells her friend, I am going to be an artist. But in the year 1899, that was a long time ago, only boys were artists back then. A girl wishing to be one is scandalous. That means it was kind of unheard of. Women did not become artists back then. Georgia sees life differently. She paints, and hours pass by without notice. She wonders if she can achieve her dream. She walks around a lake and hikes into the woods, and everywhere she looks, shapes hum and sing to her. That looks quite beautiful. You kind of see the lake there. At art school, brushes and canvas become her language, and paint speaks for her. Watercolor and oils are her words. Now, we use watercolors a lot at school, and oils are something that we'll work with later in the year. For a time, Georgia lives in the city. She walks through canyons of concrete. She misses the outdoor world. The sun steals a bite from a skyscraper. The faraway place, open sky and land calls to her. You see that big skyscraper there? But she is thinking that the outdoors are calling to her. The wideness and wonder of the world amaze Georgia. She wants to share this magic with others. Flowers delight her. She paints them as giants. People stop to stare. And Georgia's flowers make them feel like tiny butterflies flitting through the universe of her garden. It's a really big painting of a flower. She moves to Ghost Ranch in New Mexico. Red hills, cliffs, silence, and the far away surround her. In the desert, she discovers extraordinary things. Skulls. The bones don't frighten Georgia. To her, they are alive and strong, and their beauty astounds her. The trees and hills whisper their secrets. They are friends, always there for her. A canyon calls her. From the bottom at dusk, she sees a long line of cows above. Black lace against dusky sky. She hikes at dawn. She climbs a ridge. The land enchants her. A range of hills is a mile of elephants with white sand at their feet. You see how those hills they turn into elephants as we move further over. So we can see things like that in stuff that's around us. Sometimes her Chow Chow tags along. He hops around rocks and chases antelopes. They float ahead of her yelping dog. Georgia follows them. She breathes in the dawn. A sea of sage covers the plain before a mountain, like waves lapping against a shore. Sometimes she climbs a ladder to her roof, and the moon rises above. Beneath a giant canvas of inky night sky and silvery stars, Georgia dreams. She sleeps on her roof so she can be under the stars. Even now, Georgia can show you the world as she sees it. Open your eyes and walk along. See the colors? Hear the shapes singing? That's one of those skulls she would have found out in the desert. No need to hurry. Lean in. Look closer. Closer still. There. The wideness and wonder of the world. And that is the end. You can see that's one of her famous paintings. So she did a lot of flower paintings like that. Very large, really big canvases. You remember when we worked on little canvases? She used really big ones, kind of like, I think it was Claude Monet. When we talked about him, do you remember we talked about how he built it? He built a trench in the ground and he had his painting down in there because it was so big. He couldn't reach the top of it, so he had to put it into the ground. Kind of like that, big paintings like that. So this week or weekend, I would like you to work on painting something that you see outside, okay? Or drawing. Or you could even make it out of clay or Play-Doh if you want. So take a look around for something outside that you think is really beautiful. So it could be a flower, could be a tree, maybe that you see with a lot of knots in it. Maybe that's beautiful to you. It could be a bird. Whatever you see outside that you think is beautiful, I want you to use that as inspiration for some artwork. All right, so you guys have a good weekend and I will see you on Monday. Bye.